Ramani Dathi is the CFO at Teamlease and now joins in. And it clearly seems that after yesterday's FOMO, after last year's rather FOMO-driven funding activity, a lot of the valuations for these Indian startups are now at all-time highs. We've seen a lot of marquee investors tighten their purse strings. And now, as a result of it, we're seeing a lot of these companies under pressure, high cash burn, low prospects of profitability, and therefore there have been mass layoffs that have taken place. How bad really is the situation, Ramani?
Yes, definitely in the private equity funded companies like Edtech, FinTech, and some of these food delivery companies. So we are seeing a lot of pressure on cost control and headcount reduction because, as you rightly mentioned, over the last 3 years, so they all have massively increased their investments in marketing, talent, people across all functions. And now that they have come under pressure to show profitability and positive cash flows, so they are taking a very tight control on headcounts. And we have started seeing that in some of the pockets, even last 1-2 quarters as well. And Q3 is where, again, we are expecting that there'll be a massive headcount reduction, especially in these private equity funded tech companies.
That tech and IT had been one of the leading employment generators with the kind of drop that we're seeing in the growth rate of demand for this tech talent by the tech sector and the layoffs. How badly are you seeing hiring as well being impacted?
Yeah. So as far as IT services, the Indian IT services and product and captive companies are concerned, we haven't started seeing any massive layoffs as of now. But having said that, will this kind of trajectory continue into future for next few quarters as well? At this point in time, we have no visibility because the attrition levels are still high, especially at mid and senior level. Even in IT services company till last quarter, the attrition level is very high. So far, there has been a hiring freeze. So at some point, they have to start hiring. So our understanding is that the IT companies for a while may stay away from hiring their permanent employees on their roles because that increases their fixed costs. So to bridge the gap temporarily, that they may resort to contract staffing, more of temping and contract staffing in the interim. But definitely there is a slowness in overall IT hiring compared to last 2 years and even last 2 quarters also we have seen the kind of slowness. Even our own headcounts in IT space has remained flattish for this year, and we are expecting them to remain flat for the rest of the year as well. However, this is only on the IT side of it. But however, the traditional companies like banking, financial services, consumer vertical, manufacturing, in fact, telecom. So these are the pockets where we are seeing very good volume on headcounts and new employee addition.
Which end of the startup ecosystem is taking the highest hit? The coders, the social media influencers, what is taking the maximum hit?
See, wherever there are very high cost resources and where the companies are not able to realize the ideal returns is where we are seeing the massive headcount reduction. Because again, last 1-2 years, we have seen substantial increase in the salary levels of some of these tech talent. It's not just 10% or 20% salary hikes. It's almost, some of them got almost 100%, 200% hikes. Like even we are finding it extremely difficult to hire the tech talent at a reasonable salary levels for the last few quarters as well. So these are the areas where now the startup ecosystem also has started focusing on reducing their costs or optimizing and rationalizing their existing resources instead of adding more resources. So one thing that we have noticed is they are letting go the high cost resources and hiring new talent at market salaries, because this is one of the drivers why the IT services attrition is still high. So the attrition in IT services is getting absorbed by the startup ecosystem at a relatively lower salaries than what they are paying over the last 2 years.
Start having impact on the so-called IT services in terms of talent availability while we are talking about the 2021 being the year of great resignation, the year of great attrition, the year when salary hikes on an average were anywhere between 15 to 50%. Will everything in the tech world normalize?
Yeah, it's tough to answer that. Will everything get normalized? But definitely the attrition levels we have started seeing this quarter, at the beginning of this quarter, started seeing slightly tapering down. And even the salary increments this year, we believe that it will not be at the same range as what it was the last couple of years. And again, if the startups so far who have been absorbing the high cost resources from IT services, if they start toning down their hiring, so then eventually things will settle down at IT services companies as well.
My sister lives in San Francisco, and she was trying to tell me this other angle that we could talk about and cover, which is that if you see the mass layoffs that have happened in the big tech companies, the smaller tech companies in the US, the Indians, the H-1B visas, the situation that's unfolding there, they may have to return home. They don't have jobs. Their ability to stay in America hinges on a job which is not available. Are you anticipating a large influx of that reverse migration that could then take place? And if that reverse brain drain, reverse migration does take place, what's it going to mean for the job market here?
Yeah. So as of now, we haven't started seeing any kind of large influx from the H-1B visas who are getting laid off in US. So again, I think it's too early to kind of pass any kind of statements, because as of now, we are not seeing any kind of like high unemployment rate in IT and tech levels. There is attrition. People are getting absorbed by some other companies, especially the non-IT companies have increased their tech spending. So this is again a new trend that we have started seeing over the last 1 year. Because during COVID times, many non-IT companies have started setting up their own internal tech teams, either for their digital projects or transformation and other specific projects. And they are also hiring a lot of tech talent. So at this point in time, we are not seeing any kind of surge in the unemployment in IT and tech talent. But can things change in the coming months and coming quarters? Maybe we also have to wait and watch.
You've already informed us about how there is replacement hiring also that is taking place, and replacement hiring at a lower cost, at a more normalized salary. But can you give us a sense of whether this is happening at the lower level, middle level, high level? Are they all just looking at the right side of that Excel sheet and just saying, this is how much my department needs to cut? And, that's the only column that they're looking at, not looking at merit also?
Yeah. So we are seeing this kind of correction, salary correction, replacement happening mainly at mid and senior level, because at entry level, the fresher jobs, there isn't that much of salary hike even over the last 2 years. So more and more IT companies are focusing on the bench that they have built with freshers over the last 2 years. So they are trying to bring these people to productivity with better training and trying to optimize their existing resources instead of increasing the cost. So the mid and senior level, either they are replacing with a lower cost from the market, or they are trying to bring their freshers whom they have hired over last 2 years to those levels. But again, is it completely purely based on cost reduction and no merit and no other performance indicators being taken into account? That's not true, because we are seeing the top talent has been retained by the companies, and those who are like in the range of mid and below levels in terms of performance or overall productivity. So that's where we are seeing the massive attrition, either voluntary or involuntary, happening.